the introduction Renee already gave you. Don't let Denny Clark fool you. Denny is my former manager for many years at the bank. What was First Union Wachovia. I left before it became Wells Fargo. I've had a lot of great leaders and managers. Denny was the best. So a little bit of what you're going to hear today has been shaped and influenced by that great leader. So have a history and a soft spot in my heart for that guy. But there's some other information on the screen with regard to my background. If you're a dog lover, I encourage you to go to the About section on the Reveal site and look at all the dogs that at the bottom it says Mark's Mutts, and you'll see all these dogs I've fostered over the years. And that's one of my passions. So we do work with, we started as a research firm 15 years ago, named gen, talent identification, and then we've moved more into full cycle recruitment and some other things. But we generally work with mostly small, mid-sized businesses, but we've also got a history with some of the larger brands and some of these logos here are long-standing clients. Like a lot of companies, some of the more prominent ones took a hit at the beginning of the year. So we got slow, and like a lot of recruiting firms did, but thankfully we're starting to see that. And as of maybe 3 months ago, we're seeing things pick back up again in the market across multiple industries. So let me share with you on the topic of culture, something that is probably pretty foundational to most, but having a vision statement that we worked, it wasn't an overnight thing, but a long time ago, probably, I don't know, long time, 5 years ago, I started getting obsessed with this whole thing about why do those of us who work in talent acquisition enjoy the work? I as a customer of traditional recruiting firms, I was never really settled with the big placement fee kind of model. So we operate under an hourly model where we charge hourly for our services or on a project basis, which opens up when you're not focused on what you bill and you're not celebrating that, it leaves room to focus on purpose. And so purpose-driven recruitment is, yes, I had to fight to get the trademark from the guy that wrote Purpose-Driven Life, but he did inspire that. But purpose-driven recruitment has to do with focusing on people and their lives and livelihoods. And those of us in talent acquisition, we get to play a really small part, but a really awesome part in introducing people to companies and watching what happens in their lives and their livelihood as a result of that. So evidential value is another piece. I'll talk to you about that in a minute, but we do spot awards in summary for our colleagues around evidential value. So that's the vision. Our mission is about creating intersections between business leaders and exceptional talent. Hiring and being hired is a life-changing event, and we never lose sight of that. Our core values, the team, we put these together a number of years ago, and I think they're all fairly self-explanatory, but growth is really at a personal and a company level, and fun and balance is one that we really work hard on as well. So what do we do at Reveal? We are certainly, this is our history and our core of purpose-driven recruitment. We not only do hourly billing, but not to exceed pricing. So that allows us to, our fees fall over the course of the search so that when we reach a certain point, we don't bill any further. That puts us on the same page with our clients. Like we both now want to get the job filled as quickly as possible because our fees continue to go down as time goes on. I've been doing pro bono career coaching for 20 years. I'll show you a part of my website where you can find that and some other tools that we're going to look at today. But we're looking at how to maybe more formalize that and make it a little more structured in a learning management system. And then we've been helping our clients through recruitment marketing and so forth. Justin leads that part of our business to help them get their employment brand out there, especially small to mid-sized businesses that don't have all of the internal horsepower and resources that the big companies have. So that's what we do. And so from some of the tools and approach that we use for engagement and retention at Reveal, and we help our client companies implement, is one is about considering your career drivers. And let me just talk to you about this for a minute. Why do we stay in the job we're in with the employer we're working with, or why do we leave and go elsewhere? So that's another topic I got kind of obsessed about over a number of years ago, and it's really the heart of purpose-driven recruitment. So I got to thinking about this years ago, and I thought, I don't think the list is infinite. I think the reason that we stay where we are, or we move to a new employer, to a new role, is finite. You can probably itemize them, which I did, and captured them on a one-page document. They fall into 5 categories: compensation and benefits, the meaning or the impact of the work, the environment, that's the big one, and I'll show you a little bit all the sub-bullets under this, personal and professional growth, and the leadership or the management that surrounds us. So when you think about, I'm going to toggle over here and share this resource with you that you can also go get. So when you go into this part of our site, career coaching support under candidates, you'll find this pro bono stuff that we've been doing for, like if you have friends or family or people that you know are focusing on their career right now for whatever reason, please send them here. It's a free resource. But in particular, you'd want to come to this and click on this career drivers button. And what you'd find is this is those same 5 topics that we just talked about, and the sub bullets under each. Now, here's what's kind of cool about this. I think we all of us that look forward to a paycheck care about each one of these, but the ranking and importance and how we define them has got that kind of snowflake effect, right? I mean, it's different for each one of us. So when we are approaching candidates, I'm gonna tell you how we use this in recruiting and how we use it internally for retention. When we're approaching candidates, we're able to say, look, we don't get it paid any more, any less if you get hired, which allows us to focus on what's important to you and to make sure that it aligns with the opportunity we called you about. So we hand them a document like this, we walk through it and say, you know, we called you cold at work, you're probably not thinking about these things, but let's have a conversation here. What comes to the top of the list for you along these 5 categories, and then how do you define them? And then we might ask them, if you would like to spend a little more time reflecting on this and thinking about the circumstances that would have to be in place for you to make a change, then please do that and let's have another conversation. So they might come back and say, you know, work-life balance this is how I define that. And I don't think I'm really seeing that where I currently am. So that becomes an opportunity for our client company to say, we're going to the client company and saying, this candidate is open to talking, but you've got to talk to them about how you can meet their definition of success around work-life balance. So that's the whole idea, right? It makes sense. It's very practical and pragmatic in terms of how you talk to someone about, you know, are you fully the best version of yourself, fully actualized in your current role? Is there more that you could achieve elsewhere? And if so, we'll see if we can find that in this opportunity. If it doesn't exist, then there's no reason for you to move forward. So how we use this in re-recruiting people to Reveal, you can do this with your company too, and I'll show you this very simple thing to build on your own. You take these career driver topics and all the sub bullets and move them into a separate document. We've been doing this for a number of years now. And ask for an importance ranking with each individual, and an importance ranking and a performance ranking. I'll show you an example of this. And then encourage commentary. Encourage commentary on those. Let me show you what we do here. We've moved this simply into this Excel file. And so, you know, Justin and I will sit down after he's had a chance to think about something like this. This is a sample that I took the person's name off of it. And there are those same topics and subtopics, right? Benefits, job title, status, travel or the lack of it, compensation and benefits. So what I'm asking them is, from an importance standpoint, how are we doing? Excuse me, is it important to you? Is it not important, important, or very important? And then how are we doing? And it's pretty conversational sort of terms, right? This needs attention, or it's pretty good, or it couldn't get much better. And here's some additional notes. This person chose to write their notes out here. And then any other topics. And so we sit down and go through this after they've had a chance to think about it. Now here's that, Renee talked about how you can, use these tools to make sure your employment brand matches your reality, right? I mean, what you want as a company to project to new candidates about here's how great it is here. Do your internal colleagues believe that as well? Are you really living what you aspire to create for your employees? Well, the first place to start with that is to ask humbly, how are we doing? What do we need to do to improve it? The hard part of this, in my experience, is being willing to say, we're not going to do that. I know that that's what you'd like for us to do. You'd like for me to work on, whether, if it's a request or a goal of that individual's that I can't afford, or I can't work on it, can't support it for whatever reason. You got to be willing to talk about that with them so that they know where, what to hope for, because how when you survey people or poll people, if you ask the question, you better be ready to act on it in some way, shape, or form. And one form of action is to say, we're not going to do anything about it. But you also get a sense across multiple colleagues, if there's a trend or a concern or a positive thing that they say, please don't stop doing that. I mean, you're getting that really right, and please don't stop. So that allows you to self-assess and to know where you stand in terms of your current culture, and gives you the opportunity to decide how you may want to modify that. Pause for questions or comments. That makes sense. Pretty practical. Thanks, Trish, for the nod, Trish. The ever important nod. Thank you. Incumbent interviews. This is a great tool. So simple, costs you nothing to do it. For those of you in talent acquisition, think about this. I just remember Gina, we've never met, but you said you're the head of talent acquisition. I'm sorry, I forget the organization, but imagine you have an opening in a group, and at some point, okay, we've all been a candidate, right? So at some point, you get an opportunity to talk to people in the group, and you want to know what's it really like in working in that group. So Gina, let's say you have an opening in a particular group in the company. You go to the hiring manager and say, I want to be able to give candidates a peek into the group. I want them to hear the colleagues that they might be working with in the future early in the process. We want to differentiate how we talk about the opportunity from other competitors that are trying to hire the same individual. We want to be memorable and differentiated. So you go to that hiring manager and say, ask each person in the group to give you one bullet in response to the following 4 questions. Why did you choose this role or this company? Why do you stay or come back every day? What challenges do you experience, and how does the company or the leader help to overcome those? And then what else do you want candidates to know who are considering an opportunity with our company? So that you get one bullet from each person, and you consolidate all of those into a document that looks like this. Let me toggle over and grab that one. So when we're recruiting to reveal, we gather all this and consolidate it in one document, and then put the purpose of what it's for, right? The purpose of this document is to give you early insight into how the people working at Reveal experience the environment, the role, the colleagues. And again, it's something we help our client companies to create for a particular position But that's the size of it, right? And so you may need to, you don't want to edit it to the point that it is no longer genuine, but you may have to edit just for clarity and so forth sometimes, because people just sort of put it out there, and you might just want to clean it up a little bit. And then, but it also gives you, there's a point I didn't make on the career drivers re-recruiting you that shows up here too. If you are re-recruiting someone, or you're compelling them to think about all the values and so forth of their current employment with your company, you are re-recruiting them. You're ahead of, like, if a recruiting firm like mine was to call someone at your company about an opportunity, isn't it great that you've recently asked them to think about how good they have it and what the issues might be and whether or not you're willing to work on them? So you're ahead of a recruiter when you're engaging in an exercise to re-recruit them, or to ask them, why do you come here? Why did you choose to come here? Why do you come back every day, and so forth? Incumbent interview, call it whatever you want. That's what we call it, but it's super simple and candidates respond extremely well to it. All right, let me keep going. Promoting connection, communication, and retention. So what are some of the things that we found to be effective there? When we went virtual 5 years ago, we had an office in Charlotte for many years. I was one of the last two kicking and screaming, like, I cannot work remote. I cannot work from home. About a year later, I was thinking, I can't do it any other way now. But how do you keep that connective tissue and so forth with your team when you're not in the same office, in the same building? So onboarding and core for us is Center of Recruiting Excellence. So what that looks like is this. So this was Meg's onboarding core playbook years ago when she joined. And if you notice, each tab on the left corresponds to each row down the left corresponds to each tab down here. We have 122 hours. This is rounded up to 123 hours of onboarding over about a 6 month or so period. And that's a lot of time for, is one person helping that new colleague to onboard? No, everybody is. So when we go through sort of the, the table stakes sort of stuff about handbooks and so forth, but when we get into the training, we go through and ask, let me say, like the intake meeting, for instance, we say, here's the step in the process. Here's what success looks like in that step in the process. Based on that, let's have a conversation. Would you consider yourself to be learning, skilled, or expert, LSE? And what we're doing here is, and then once they go through training and coaching and so forth on that topic, that the new colleague, the player, not the coach, captures what they learned and so forth, so that when someone else is coaching or training that person, Meg can say, oh, wait a minute, I think somebody did talk to me about that. Let me check my notes, because there's a lot of material here. So she leaves herself a bit of a learning journal. But the other thing we're doing is saying, you are an expert on that. Thank you so much. In fact, what you just told me about the way we do it and the way you've learned to do it, you just raised the bar on everybody else here. I need you to help coach some of our current colleagues. So as an expert on the topic, we just need to help her, if she doesn't already know the basics of coaching, how she can coach her brand new colleagues. So now she's not coming into the company thinking, I'm the new one here, I got everything to learn. No, you got a lot that you can share and you can coach and help others with. So that helps to balance that, that new, newbie feel. But it also prioritizes what we want to focus on. So we then, all of her learning items, we move into her training needs. So now we've got a path for her onboarding, prioritized path based on what she needs to learn first. Stop me if you have questions.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, please.
Just a question on that. So for the learning skills and what you're excelling at, is that something that can be used, the people on the line, employers on the line, that they can use for their current employees, or is, even for the schools, because the teachers that are on the line, could they utilize that for their students as well, with being able to pair them up together?
That's the whole idea behind it, is that you learn from, I'm jumping ahead here to give you something on that. This is our performance coaching. This is a summary of it. First of all, that's how we define learning skill and expert, because that always comes up as a question. What do you mean by learning? Well, the information, it's largely new to you, so you have a lot to learn. No formula here, right? It's just sort of a feeling, and there's no right or wrong. It's just, we're just trying to prioritize how to support you and bring you on. So for the people who are incumbents, I think you got to look at, there's a big opportunity for you to say, what is the body of knowledge for our work as a group, for an individual role? And if you can capture that and say, the success statement, I think is the key. You have to be able to say, if I walked up on someone and observed them and listened to them carrying out that particular task or that activity, what would success look like? Summary, right? You got to do it really in a summarized fashion. And then you have the dialogue with that person, and you're looking for, do they have something to teach us? Because that makes them an expert. Or do they have more to learn? And I'm not grading you, I'm prioritizing what we should focus on. So I think you can do it especially if you're entering into new process, new tools, new technology. I think that's an opportunity, Renee.
Okay, and then you had one question in the chat from Lester Hutt with Diverse Computing. His question was, how often do you do the career driver survey with employees? Once a year, more frequent?
About every year. Yeah, it's not scheduled. We talk about our work and performance so frequently. It's a whole different topic for me. I have a bias against annual performance reviews. I was raised to do them. Peter Block from Stewardship, wrote the book Stewardship years ago, influenced me away from annual performance reviews. Follow his teachings on that, but that's how we engage annually and frequently on coaching and performance and engagement, instead of waiting for once a year to have that conversation. Okay. Come back over to this. So instant messaging. When we're, apologies if an F-16 is about to fly over, it's just Murphy's Law. They might show you something that seems so trite, is so really the stuff that binds, right? So on our instant messaging platform, you have a lot of one-to-one and two-to-one sorts of conversations happening. Some people adopt their nickname and include it here. So Susan adopted the name Spanky. We enjoy giving nicknames to each other and have a lot of fun with that. But chatter is what you do when you walk in an office and go, how was your weekend? Hey, did you catch that Netflix series? And, or you're sitting at your desk and you hear the chatter in the room. You got to recreate that if you're not in the same office, in my opinion. And so what goes on chatter is the things that you would share just chatting. And when you see a little bubble pop up like here, you know that it's not time sensitive. You can wait and come back to it. Core team is hear ye. I have something I need help on, or I have a question. Anybody can use it. Daily good news. We started that somewhere in the first quarter when we really needed good news every day. But you can kind of see, like at Halloween, this is some of our colleagues were putting up their costumes, and then as the election's coming up and so forth, it's really, anything just about. There's my dog at the office in town watching the parking lot. I'm asking for a question, nobody's answering me. So that kind of communication, choose your own that fits your style. But especially when you're not in the same office, you got to it can get lonely, it can get quiet, and that can work on people. We huddle Mondays and Thursdays every 30 minutes. We always run over, but the first 15, 20 minutes is about weekends. How was your weekend on Monday? What are you doing this weekend? Was the conversation we had this morning, just anything. And then we get into a little bit of business. Other things we do, just sort of examples for retention is I pay 80% of their employee benefits until their second year. I don't know how long we can keep doing it the way the costs keep going up, but we've been doing it for a long time. So balance time, that is just a open checkbook. When you work with the right people and they say, I need to just step away, I got to go take especially like Dee Dee, she's got three girls and her husband travels extensively and she's got to step away for an appointment and so forth. You just, do what you need to do and make it up whenever you can make it up. Sometimes it's just a mental health thing. Over this year, people just like, I need to step away for a few hours. Coach's Corner, we'll have that sporadically where you observe somebody doing something really cool and they don't think it's all that cool, but it usually is. And or we're looking at a new technology. There's one we're looking at right now. For those of you that run recruiting firms, check out Hinterview, HINT, like interview with an H on the front. But that's video introductions and video interviewing and so forth. So we might put a Coach's Corner around that when we get it nailed down and talk about best practices for Hinterview. AIM, when it's not 2020 and we're doing good financially, it's all in on margin. Everybody in the company, if we are more and more profitable, the payouts on our incentive plans get better. And then spot awards for evidential value. Remember I talked about that earlier. We keep up with every hire and the quotes. I've hidden some rows here or columns here, but this one, like Bruce just got this from a candidate yesterday, and these are unsolicited. And we're trying to promote and encourage when one of our purpose-driven recruitment consultants has an impact on a candidate or a client such that that individual says, I got to tell you, man, that was quite the experience. And I've worked with a lot of recruiters. And there's hundreds of these. And so one of the things that we do to promote culture is pay spot awards for like unsolicited. It was, a wonderful compliment, and it's a small amount of money, but we total it up and pay it out at the end of each quarter. Favorites from a culture standpoint. Renee, give me a 5-minute warning when it's time, please.
We'll do it now, a 5-minute warning now, so we can have time for Q&A.
All right, Crystal Nose. You guys are going to be blown away by this. I can't believe more people don't know about this thing, but Crystal Nose is a Google Chrome plugin that reads your LinkedIn profile, the language you chose to write your profile. And you can do it with a resume or a bio or something like that. But it reads that and says, I think this is what their DISC profile is, their operating system. So check this out. Pull up Renee. Here's my Crystal Nose plugin.
Uh-oh.
And let me reload this. And I just press that little button and it says view personality, and it takes a look and says the following. So, and I'm going to take you to a more enhanced view, but notice this right here. It says I need to call, email, or have a meeting with Renee so that I can negotiate, make a good impression, discuss pricing, ask for a raise. And then you say, view the advice, and it'll give you what you should and should not say to her, and what you should and should not do, a language that she will respond to or that she won't respond to well. And when you pull this for people, they go, oh my gosh, that is so scary accurate. It's not always right, but it's largely correct. And you can go build playbooks. So I go create a new playbook, and the people I've recently viewed show up here. And if I go to click on just Renee, we will pull this or this for a candidate and say, Renee, check this out. Tell me if you think this is largely correct. And if it is, I'd like to share it with the hiring manager with your comments, right? So Renee might say, let me just pull one of these up. So she might look at that, and it's this kind of pretty long thing, right? But it's real light, not like a 50, 60 page disc survey or disc report. But she might run down this and say, I don't really agree with that one. I'm like, okay, I'll note that. And then I do the same with the hiring manager, and I say, here, Renee, here's the hiring manager's. Hiring manager, here's Renee's. When you two get together, have a substantive conversation about your work styles. Ask each other about these things. Tell me how that shows up, Renee, when it says peers who provide a regular follow-up and reassurance. What does that mean, Renee? Is that something you thrive on? Is that true? You know, so just have a conversation about it. And you're going to get to know these things about people that you work with intimately over time anyway. Why not have that conversation on the front end and reduce the number of surprises? Make sense? Pretty cool.
Awesomely cool.
Spot on.
Awesome. And I think it nailed Renee.
Yes.
And then you can say, watch how these, look, I love this, career advice for Renee, leadership advice for Renee. But then watch how they change when I select 2 or more people, especially when you go to 3. So now we get like, how do we work together as a team? And it'll show you little continuums for things like risk tolerance. And you might find that a certain leadership team has, most people are very risk averse, and they're like, well, what, or better yet, they're risk tolerant. Like, we take too many risks as a team. We need to, when we're adding some diversity to our team, we need to look at people that have a different sort of approach to certain topics. That's Crystal knows. I got to hurry. That is majorly cool, as you can imagine. Tuckman's model, you guys probably know this one if you don't know it by name. This is part of our culture. Tuckman's model is that when someone comes in to reveal, I say, let's talk about this Tuckman's model. It's so important. When 2 or more people come together to work on a project or as colleagues, they're forming. Without a doubt, at some point, there will be storming. And that is a little disagreement, could be raised voices, it could be just quiet, but there's some anxiety, there's some consternation. The groups that get it right recognize that as an opportunity to learn, not as a conflict. Like, what? Why? You feel it, Renee? Right now, we're having a conversation, and you feel this? Are we storming right now? I think we are. What? How did we get here? And you dissect it and deconstruct it and figure out what happened, so that we know how to know. All right, next time that happens, let's agree to the following, so that we can perform later. It's just a maxim, a cultural thing that I've inserted and say, I really enjoy this, because you look forward to storming instead of, I don't get along with them. Well, then you're not learning how to get along with each other. So that's Tuckman's model, powerful thing for your culture. Situational leadership, you guys are probably familiar with that, but that's another one that if you haven't been through this before, I always think of it and explain it to people. Like if there was a 78 pickup truck out in the parking lot and you said, hey, would you go fix that for me and let me know if you need me? I would feel like you abandoned me. You cannot stand over me and talk, and you cannot micromanage me. I don't know what I'm doing. So on that particular task, you need to direct me. If you tell me the basics of recruiting, if I come to your company and overly instruct me, then I'm going to feel like you're micromanaging. You just need to let me go. You need to let me run with it. Situational leadership, I'm hurrying here, Renee. This is from Denny Clark, who's on the line. This was a formula that he lived by. Activity times effectiveness equals results. Central to our culture. I'm looking at results. I'm saying, that is freaking amazing. Justin, how did you do that? Let's go back and look at your activity and your effectiveness so we can learn. And oh, by the way, would you come to Coach's Corner and share that? Because that's amazing. If it's not amazing, like, well, clearly we're not seeing the results we want here. So let's take a look at your activity. What'd you do? And then let's look at the effectiveness of that activity. So we have a coaching culture, and performance coaching, as you saw on that this deck, is generally away from it. It's progressive or precipitated. Here we go. We got a plan. Let's move through the plan. Let's progress through the plan. If it's precipitated, it's boom, something just happened. Hey, can we just have a little coaching session real quick? So coachable moment. But you got to, set the backdrop as somebody's coming into the company to say, we're a coaching organization, top athletes in the world. Pick one. They all have a coach because they want their game to be always strong and improving, and they don't want to atrophy at all. So that's, I'm going to pause there, end there, and look for questions or comments as I get the sun off of it.
Yeah, Mark, I actually had a couple of direct messages, questions that were sent to me. Since they were direct messages, I won't say their name. I'm not sure if they want them out there like that since they private messaged me. But one question was using that crystal nose or some of the other tools at the end. Is this a tool that you could probably use to ask for a raise? Especially being able to know how to properly do it.
Yeah, there's one playbook, not playbook, but the conversation coach says it gives you some guidance on that, on how to do that. I mean, it's not, stepwise process. Here's how to go about asking for raises. It's just tips on language that might be good or bad. There's something else you do with crystal nose that I should have mentioned. Say, Justin joins, he's been here 2 years, but Justin joins and we went through that on the way in the door, but on the way, after he's been there for revealed for a month or two, it's a healthy thing to say, hey, can we get our profiles back out, you and I? And Justin, what I'm looking for is when you look at your profile from Crystal Nose, what have I not been paying attention to that you want me to pay attention to? Something about how you're wired that I haven't noticed yet. And then I do the same. That's a real healthy exercise, by the way. And it's not something that's real prominent in Crystal Nose. You wouldn't know to do that, but it's a really cool exercise.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I had another question that came in. And this is, I'm excited about this question because we do have someone with talent pipeline management on the call. But for when you think of how important is the brand to the talent pipeline management, and what can employers do to make themselves more enticing when dealing with talent pipeline management? Maybe three key tips.
If you're an agency asking that question, check out a tool called HereFish, all one word, HERE Fish, built for recruitment firms primarily. But it is a recruitment, marketing, visibility sort of thing that helps you manage a talent pipeline. You'll know if they're engaging with you or not. But ask your pipeline about their career drivers. Right? Makes sense? I mean, if you ask a bunch of engineers what's important to you, and then as an employer, you realize we're not real strong on that point. That's how you can sit and then communicate to your pipeline. This is what we're doing to strengthen in that area. Or what we're already doing that's pretty strong.
That works. And I guess this is my question. Just thinking about the employers and the educators that I have on the line, how do we change the mindset that some employers have about, I guess, not having the funding, or if they don't have the funding, being able to utilize some of those tools to help build their culture? Like I know, for instance, at Lester's place, an IT company that he has, they do things like the lunches every day and, company picnics, but there's some smaller companies on the call that might not be able to do that. So how can they utilize their own resources to be able to help grow their company culture or better foster their company culture? Give you one or two tips for that.
Yeah. I'm looking to see how much of what I shared costs money, and very, very little of it does. I mean, we're a small company too, and it's been a challenging year for most recruiting firms, but the career drivers conversation costs nothing but time. How are we doing? How important is it to you that re-recruiting you to reveal or to your company? The incumbent interview is free. Bringing the team together for huddles, just for connection time. I mean, we all need it. Geez, we need it even more right now. There's a lot in here. If you go back, that really doesn't cost much. Even Crystal Nose is not very expensive. It's like $30 a month. Something like that.
That works.